Hello everyone. Today we are going to do a truly beautiful mind beehive textbook in English for class 9th 4th chapter. So it is on page number 46 and a truly beautiful mind is like the biography, a little part of the biography of Albert Einstein, the mathematician and the physician, and he has done great in both the fields. He has acquired Nobel Prize for his discoveries as well. So let's start. Before you read, who do you think of when you hear the word genius? Who is a genius? What qualities do you think a genius has? We shall now read about a young German civil servant who took the world by storm about 100 years ago. In the summer of 1905, a 26-year-old published in quick success 4 groundbreaking papers about light, the motion of particles, the electrodynamics of moving bodies, and energy. His work took up only a few pages in scientific journals, but changed forever our understanding of space, time, and the entire cosmos, and transformed the name Einstein into a synonym for genius. Okay. 50 years after his death, Albert Einstein's genius still reigns. Okay. So, basically, here we are talking about Einstein, and that we are talking about Einstein over here. Also, a question might be asked that in which year did Einstein published the 4 groundbreaking papers? So you should write 1905 when Einstein was 26 years old. Okay. Albert Einstein was born on 14 March 1879 in the German city of Ulm, without any indication that he was destined for greatness. On the contrary, his mother thought Albert was a freak. To her, his head seemed much too large. Okay. So, Albert Einstein was born on 14 March 1879 in the German city of Ulm. So, the nationality of Einstein was German. And what did his mother think of Einstein? Einstein's mother thought of him as a freak because his head seemed too much large to her. Okay, this question might be asked. At the age of 2.5, Einstein still wasn't talking. When he finally did learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. So the youngster played by himself much of the time. He especially loved mechanical toys. Looking at his newborn sister, Marta, he is said to have said, "Fine, but where are her wheels?" Okay. So, at the age of when Einstein was 2.5, he still wasn't able to talk. He couldn't talk. And if a question might be asked, till what age wasn't Einstein able to talk? So you'll answer 2.5. And when Einstein did finally learn to speak, he uttered everything twice. Einstein did not know what to do with other children, and his playmates called him Brother Boring. Like, it was like Einstein did not know, like, other children did not excite him. Like, whenever we see our fellow mates, it makes us feel like we make friends with them. Okay, it makes us feel like that. But Einstein did not feel so. He did not know what to do with them. What can I do with them? And his playmates or his friends called him, you should use the term playmate in your answer. So his playmates called him Brother Boring. And Einstein used to play by himself much of the time. What kind of toys did Einstein like? So it has to be mechanical toys. And when his sister Marta was born, Einstein asked a question to his parents that where are her wheels? It's okay. He thought that Marta was a toy his parents had bought for him. He did not know that she was his sister. He thought that she was a toy. Okay. Now, so let's revise. When was Einstein born? Einstein was born on 14th March 1879 in the German city of Ulm. His mother thought that he was a freak because she thought that his head was too much large. And at the age of 2.5, Einstein was not able to talk. And when he finally did learn to talk, he uttered everything twice. And he did not know what to do with other children. So his playmates called him what? Brother Boring. So he played by himself much of the time. He especially loved mechanical toys. And looking at his newborn sister, Marja, he asked his parents, fine, but where are her wheels? Okay, so he thought that his sister was a toy. A headmaster once told his father that what Einstein chose as a profession wouldn't matter because he'll never make a success at anything. Einstein began learning to play the violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. He later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining his skill throughout his life. So, Einstein's headmaster once told Einstein's father that what Einstein chooses as a profession wouldn't matter because he will not be able to get success with anything. ठीक है? And Einstein and at what age did Einstein learn to play violin? At the age of 6. And why did he play it? Because his mother wanted him to. And then he later became a gifted amateur violinist, maintaining this skill throughout his life. Amateur is like only doing for fun, as a hobby, enjoyment, and not as a professional. Okay, so let's revise. A headmaster had once told Einstein's father that it doesn't matter what kind of career path Einstein chooses because he will not be able to make success at anything. And Einstein began to learn violin at the age of 6 because his mother wanted him to. Later he became a gifted amateur violinist and he maintained his skill throughout the life of his. Okay. But Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. He went to high school in Munich where Einstein's family had moved when he was 15 months old and scored good marks in almost every subject. Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. At the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled that he left the school for good. So, if you remember, the headmaster told his father that Einstein will not. It doesn't matter what kind of career path Einstein chooses because he will not be able to make success at anything. But Einstein was not a bad pupil. He was not a bad pupil he was not a bad student. He went to a high school in Munich to where his family had shifted when he was 15 months old. He scored good marks in almost every subject. But Einstein hated the school's regimentation and often clashed with his teachers. When Einstein was 15, Einstein felt so suffocated in the regimentation of the school that he left the school for good. Regimentation is the discipline that is followed. For example, our schools have this discipline that girls make plaits, nails cut, no nail polish, and no long nails. You cannot keep your hair open. So this discipline, the so-called discipline. So a question can come that why was Einstein not a bad pupil? You can write this paragraph there. Albert Einstein was not a bad pupil. Einstein went to a high school in Munich, to where his family had moved when he was 15 months old, and he scored good marks in almost every subject. But Einstein did not like the school's regimentation, and at the age of 15, Einstein felt so stifled, so suffocated, that he left the school for good. So there are some points that you need to remember, that Einstein hated the school's regimentation and he often clashed with his teachers. So here 2-3 questions can be made, that why did Einstein clash with his teachers, why did Einstein leave the school, why was Einstein not a bad pupil. All have the same answer, okay? The previous year, Albert's parents had moved to Milan and left their son with relatives. After prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was much more liberal than Munich. So, the previous year, the year before this Munich accident, or the Munich thing that happened, so the previous year Einstein's parents had left for Munich. They had moved to Milan, and they left Albert with his relatives. And after a much prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his studies in the German-speaking Switzerland, in a city which was much more liberal than Munich. So, prolonged means long. So, after a very long discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his education in German-speaking Switzerland, which a city which was much more liberal than Munich. So, the previous year, Einstein's parents had moved to Milan, and they left Einstein with his with their relatives, and after a much prolonged discussion, Einstein got his wish to continue his studies in the German-speaking Switzerland, a city which was much more liberal than Munich. So a question can come, why did Einstein wish to move from Munich to Switzerland? Okay. Because it was much more liberal than Munich. Einstein was highly gifted in mathematics and interested in physics, and after finishing school, he decided to study at a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that appeased to the dashing young man with the walrus mustache. So, basically, Einstein was very much gifted, and not only gifted, he had this special ability, talent in mathematics, and he was really interested in physics. So after finishing school, he went to a university in Zurich. But science wasn't the only thing that Einstein liked, and hair, walrus mustache. So a question can be asked, that what kind of mustache did Einstein had, or this whole paragraph can come as fill in the blank or something like that, and they'll ask who refers to as the walrus mustache. So these kind of questions can be asked. Okay. He also felt a special interest in a fellow student, Mileva Merik, whom he found to be a clever creator. This young Serb had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few in Europe where women could get degrees. Einstein saw her as an ally against the Philistines, those people in his family and at the university with whom he was constantly at odds. The couple fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into words, mixing science and tenderness. Wrote Einstein, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a vigorous conclusion." So, Einstein, in the last paragraph, we studied that we read that Einstein not only liked science, he was interested in something else too. So he was interested in a fellow student, Mileva Merrick. Mileva Merrick Einstein considered her a clever creature. Kindly put that in inverted commas, double. So he found that Mileva Merrick was a clever creature, and Mileva was from Serbia, so she was Serb. And why did Mileva Merrick come to Switzerland? She came to Switzerland because the University of Zurich, the university in Zurich was only one of the few in Europe which offered women to get degrees. Like at that time, not all women could get degrees. So to get degree and to study further, Mileva had come to Switzerland in the university in Zurich. The couple fell in love. Okay, and Einstein saw her as an ally against the Philistines. Philistines, Philistines are the people who do not like art, literature, or music. So those in his family. So who were the Philistines? The people at the university and in his family with whom Einstein was constantly at odds. Okay, so so the couple fell in love. Mileva Merrick and Albert Einstein fell in love. Letters survive in which they put their affection into works, mixing science with tenderness. So letters, they wrote letters to each other in which they mixed science with tenderness. Einstein wrote, "How happy and proud I shall be when we both have brought our work on relativity to a victorious conclusion." So on what they were working together on? They were working on relativity. Let's sum this up. Einstein also was interested in a fellow student, Mileva Merrick. Mileva Merrick was a young Serb, and Einstein found her to be a clever creature. She had come to Switzerland because the university in Zurich was one of the few universities which offered women to get degrees. Einstein saw her as an ally against the Philistines, that is the people of his family and of the university with whom Einstein was constantly at odds. And they fell in love, and they put their affection. The letters survive. Letters are there in which they have put their affection for each other in mixing science with tenderness. Okay. So this is clear. Next, in 1900, at the age of 21, Einstein was a university graduate and unemployed. He worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and finally secured a job in 1902 as a technical expert in the patent office in Bern. When he was supposed to be assessing other people's inventions, Einstein was actually developing his own ideas in secret. He is said to have jokingly called his desk drawer at work the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. After graduation in his 1900, at the age of 21, he was unemployed. Later, he found a job as a teaching assistant. He gave private lessons. He got a job as technical expert in the patent office in Bern in 1902. At the same time, he was developing his own ideas secretly. Okay. Let's repeat. After graduation, he was unemployed. At the age of 21 in 1900, Einstein graduated. At the age of 1900, Einstein graduated and was unemployed. After some time, he worked as a teaching assistant and gave private lessons. Then he was hired as the in 1902. He got a job at the patent office in Bern as the technical expert, and he was also developing his own ideas secretly. He is said to have jokingly called his direct work the Theoretical Bureau of Physics. Sorry, Bureau of Theoretical Physics. One of the most famous papers of 1905 was Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. Indeed, two perfectly accurate clocks will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey if both of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which describes the relationship between mass and energy. E is equal to mc square. So one of the most famous papers of 1905 were Einstein's special theory of relativity, according to which time and distance are not absolute. And indeed, when two clocks of the same time will not continue to show the same time if they come together again after a journey, if one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other. So in this they are saying that two clocks having the same time there are. After that, if you take one clock and it moves super fast, the two clocks they're showing the accurate in the same time. They both traveled. One went to Australia, one went to Uganda. So the Uganda one was traveling extraordinarily fast. It was faster than relative to the other one. It was faster relative to the other one. So when they meet again after in Delhi after a long journey, then the time they will show will not be equal. From this followed the world's most famous formula, which tells us the relationship between mass and energy, that is E is equals to mc square. Let's sum this up. One of the most famous papers of 1905 were the Einstein's special theory of relativity, which said that time and distance are not absolute. Indeed, if two clocks showing the accurate time will not show the same time if they go on a journey, if they are on a journey and one of them is moving very fast relative to the other. Okay, and this gave the world's most famous formula, which showed the relationship between energy and mass, that is E is equals to mc square. Here E is energy, m is mass, and c is the speed of light in vacuum, that is 300,000 km per second, also 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, or 3 into 10 to the power 5 km per second. Okay. Again, let's sum it up. In 1900, Einstein at the age of 21 graduated. He was unemployed. After that, he got a job. After that, he gave private lessons and teaching assistant, and worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons, and then he was hired as a technical expert in the patent office of Bern in 1902. There he worked on his own ideas secretly, and he is said to have jokingly said his desk in office as the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. Then one of the most famous papers of 1905 was Albert Einstein's special theory of relativity, which told us that distance and time are not absolute. Indeed, if two accurate clocks will not show the same time if if they both come together after a journey, and in which one of them has been moving very fast relative to the other one. Okay, and from this followed the world famous formula, which showed the relationship between energy and mass, that is E is equals to mc square, where E is energy, m is mass, c is the speed of light in vacuum, that is 300,000 kilometer per second, also 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, also 3 into 10 to the power 5 kilometer per second. This is all mathematics. If you want me to explain that as well, please write down in the comments. While Einstein was solving the most difficult problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Albert had wanted to marry Mileva right after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. She thought Mileva, who was 3 years older than her son, was too old for him. She was also bothered by Mileva's intelligence. "She is a book like you," his mother said. Einstein put the wedding off. The pair finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, the couple finally divorced in 1990. Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. So, here what is happening is that while Einstein was busy solving the really tough problems in physics, his private life was unraveling. Einstein wanted to marry Mileva just after finishing his studies, but his mother was against it. Why she was against it? She was against it because she thought that Mileva was 3 years older than him and she was too old for him, and that she was also intelligent. His mother was bothered by Mileva's intelligence, and she is a book like you, his mother used to believe. So Einstein put the wedding off. The couple finally married. Mileva and Einstein finally married in January 1903, that is 2 years before the special theory of relativity's paper. But a few years later, the marriage faltered. That means the marriage became weak. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and was becoming an unhappy housewife. Mileva, they were in a toxic relationship, I'd say. So just remember this by that. So when they finally married in January 1903, that is 2 years before the special theory of relativity's paper. Okay? So they finally married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But after a few years, the marriage became to falter. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition. That means she was losing her ambition to be intelligent. Like some have another level of intelligence and their intelligence become an ambition for them. So Mileva was losing her intellectual ambition and was becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, they finally divorced in 1919. And Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Okay. So again, let's get done with this. The couple married in January 1903 and had 2 sons. But after a few years, the marriage faltered. Mileva, meanwhile, was losing her intellectual ambition and was becoming an unhappy housewife. After years of constant fighting, they finally divorced in 1990, and Einstein married his cousin Elsa the same year. Okay. Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his rise to world fame. In 1915, he had published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. This is all too scientific, okay? Einstein received the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. Okay. So Einstein's new personal chapter that began was coincided or happening at the same time with his right to world fame. In 1915, he had published his another paper on the general theory of relativity, which gave a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 brought proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from the fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. I am repeating every paragraph thrice or 4 times just so that you guys can learn it. So make sure that you have your book in hand and are learning together with me. So Einstein's new personal chapter coincided with his world fame, and in 1915 he released his paper on the general theory of relativity. One is special theory of relativity in 1905, and after 10 years it's 1915 and he gave general theory of relativity, which gave us a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 gave proof that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from the fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. Okay, I know it's a little hard, this eclipse part, so let's again do this. Look, in 1915 Einstein published his general theory of relativity, which provided a new interpretation of gravity. An eclipse of the sun in 1919 proved that it was accurate. Einstein had correctly calculated that in advance the extent to which the light from the fixed stars will deflect through the sun's gravitational field. The newspapers proclaimed this work as a scientific revolution. So let's do this in Hindi. एक एक्लिप्स हुआ था एंड 1919 में, जिसने ये प्रूफ कर दिया था कि जो जनरल थ्योरी ऑफ रिलेटिविटी है दैट इज एक्यूरेट. एंड आइंस्टाइन ने प्रूफ क्या करा था, उसने ये करेक्टली कैलकुलेट करा था एडवांस में, पहले ही उसने कैलकुलेट करा था कि फिक्स्ड स्टार्स इन स्पेस के अंदर उनकी जो लाइट है, stars emit light, that's the special thing about them, right? Stars emit light, they have their own energy, they're bigger than the sun. Yeah, so the fixed stars would deflect their light through the sun's gravitational field. So you know that the sun's gravitational field is huge, it's humongous. The mass of the sun is like too much. The sun is huge, and the mass, then the gravity is more. So mass is directly proportional to gravity. The more mass you have, the more gravitational field you have. So the eclipse of the sun in 1919 proved that Einstein's theory was accurate. And what did Einstein prove? He calculated correctly. He correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from the fixed stars would deflect the sun's gravitational field. He did prove that, and the newspapers proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. The newspapers proclaimed, or they said that his work was a scientific revolution. In 1921, he received his Nobel Prize for Physics. 1921. 1919 proof. 1915 publish. In 1921, Nobel Prize. He was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and lauded by the press. Okay, so here two questions can be made. First is tell something about Einstein's professional things and tell something about Einstein's private life. So private life, in private life we can include Mileva Merrick, then divorce, their two kids, the two sons, the divorce, why did the mother not like Mileva, stuff like that. And in professional, we shall include it after from he graduated university. So what happened after that? He graduated from university in 1900, but he was which university? University in Zurich. So he graduated from University of Zurich in 19 in 1900. Okay, he graduated from the university in 1900, and after that he remained unemployed, but he gave worked as a teaching assistant, gave private lessons. Then he finally got a job at the patent office in Bern in 1902, but he was also working on his own ideas in secret. Okay, and he jokingly said that his drawer at work was the Bureau of Theoretical Physics. In 1905, he published his special theory of relativity, which said that time and distance are not absolute. And it's not absolutely needed to give the clock example, but you can if you want. But the last line is important, that it gave the world famous formula which gave the relation between energy and mass, that is E is equals to mc square, where E is the energy, m is mass, and c is the distance, the speed of light in vacuum, that is 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second, or 3 into 10 to the power 5 kilometer per second. Also in 1915 he published his general theory of relativity, which gave a new interpretation of gravity. And a sun eclipse in 1919 proved that this theory was accurate. And Einstein, why was it accurate? Because Einstein had correctly calculated in advance the extent to which the light from the stars will deflect from the sun's gravitational field. The light from the fixed stars would be deflected through the sun's gravitational field. And the newspapers and the press proclaimed his work as a scientific revolution. He got a Nobel Prize in 1921 for his work in physics, and he was showered with honors and invitations from all over the world and was lauded by the press. When the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to the United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. Many of them had fled from fascism, just as Einstein had, and now they were afraid the Nazis could build and use an atomic bomb. So when the Nazis had come to power in 1933, that is the third chapter of history also. So when the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to United States. If you have read the Nazism chapter, you might know this, that there was a lot of racial discrimination, and if you see Einstein's picture, he was not a Nordic German Aryan. So that's why he must have fled. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in an uproar. 1933, and after 1933, what happened? The Second World War in 1939. So Berlin is in, of course, Germany. So 5 years later, when the Discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had the American physicists in an uproar. Many of them had fled from the fascism, just as Einstein had. And now they were afraid the Nazis would build and use an atomic bomb. So, when the Nazis came to power in Germany in 1933, Einstein emigrated to the United States. 5 years later, the discovery of nuclear fission in Berlin had American physicists in uproar. Many of them had fled from the fascism just like Einstein had, but they were afraid that the Nazis could build and use a atomic bomb. So yeah, that's what happened. At the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on August 2, 1939, in which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in a port might very well destroy the whole port together with some of the surrounding territory. His words did not fail to have an effect. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. So, first of all, you need to know that where did they want to drop, what port Einstein was talking about. He was talking about the Pearl Harbor. If you have read Nazism, you know this very well. So, after the urging of a colleague, Einstein wrote a letter to the American President Franklin D. Roosevelt on August 2, 1939. Remember, 1939 was when the war started. Okay? In which he warned a single bomb of this type exploded in port might very well destroy the whole port as well as some surrounding territory. His word did not fail to have an effect. The Americans developed the atomic bomb in a secret project of their own and dropped it on the Japanese territories or cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. And that is how you know the World War II ended. Okay, so Einstein, when did Einstein wrote and whom did he wrote to? He wrote to Franklin D. Roosevelt on 2 August 1939. Okay. Einstein was deeply shaken by the extent of the destruction. This time he wrote a public missive to the United Nations. In it, he proposed the formation of the world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. When Einstein died in 1955 at the age of 76, he was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as much as a scientific genius. Okay. Einstein was deeply shaken by the destruction that happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 August. He wrote a public missive to the United Nations, the UN. In that, he proposed the formation of a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. But over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics, agitating for an end to the arms buildup and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. Okay. Einstein was shaken. He was really hurt by the extent of destruction that happened at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He wrote a public missive to the United Nations to form a world government. Unlike the letter to Roosevelt, this one made no impact. But over the next decade, but after 10 years, that is over the next decade, Einstein got ever more involved in politics and got ever more involved in politics, He agitated for an end to arms and using his popularity to campaign for peace and democracy. Einstein died at the age of 76 in 1955. He was celebrated as a visionary and world citizen as well as a scientific genius. Einstein was considered a world citizen and he was also visionary, and he was considered also scientific genius, and he died at the age of 76 in 1955. Okay, so when did he born? He was born on 14 March 1876. Einstein was born on 14 March 1879 and he died at the age of 76 in 1955. When was he born? He was born on 14 March 1879 and he died in 1955 at the age of 76. Yeah. Okay. So here we have completed a truly beautiful mind, the little bit of biography of Albert Einstein, and this was a one-shot revision for it, and thank you for that. And if you have continued till here, please put the timestamp and write it in the comments definitely. Yeah. And if you need any summary video, any notes, extra questions video, please comment that as well. Thank you.